On page 1 of the Bible, God speaks into darkness and chaos and brings forth a world of beauty and order. And after 6 days of creative work, God rests. All of creation is made to be a temple for His dwelling, and humanity is called to partner with Him in ruling over the works of His hands. As God's presence fills creation, humanity is invited to enter into His rest, to experience fullness and flourishing under the care of a sovereign and wise King. Just a few pages later, however, humanity turns away from God and buys the lie that true life will be found when we seize control and try to become our own masters. Tragically, however, in rebelling against God, we forfeit the gift of His rest and instead fall captive to a world marked by toil, futility, exhaustion, and death. Instead of abandoning humanity to the consequences of our rebellion, God promises to rescue all of creation from the power of sin and death and make it possible for us to experience His rest again. As the plan of redemption unfolds throughout the biblical story, God gives His people a foretaste of the ultimate rest that is to come, the Sabbath. In Hebrew, to shabbat literally means to stop. In the Old Testament, the people of Israel were commanded to shabbat by resting from their work on the 7th day of each week. To stop on the Sabbath was to remember that the God who rested on the 7th day of creation and brought them out of slavery in Egypt was the same God who promised to bring them into a land of fullness and peace. And yet, even after entering the Promised Land, the people of Israel replayed all of humanity's downfall when they turned away from God and were exiled from their place of rest. In the darkness of exile, Israel's prophets spoke of a future hope, a coming king who would liberate God's people and restore them to the rest they were made for. Fast forward to Jesus of Nazareth, who called Himself the Lord of the Sabbath, the one who came to confront the chaos and disorder that plagues our lives. By freely giving up His life in our place, Jesus bore the consequences of humanity's rebellion and defeated sin and death when He rose from the grave. Although this life is marked by difficulties and hardships, Jesus has overcome everything which might rob us of true peace and joy. This is why He can say, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." Though we wait to enter a perfect rest when He returns to restore all things, Jesus invites us to experience true rest by following Him today. Enjoying the gift of Sabbath is not simply a matter of slowing down or taking a day off. Rather, we experience Sabbath rest when we stop striving to maintain control and instead surrender our hopes, fears, expectations, and our very lives into the sovereign and gracious hands of our King. As we trust in Jesus' promise to lead us through the chaos and disorder of this life, we find freedom to enter the rest of God.